Hello and welcome to Melee's Turnwheel, the series that takes a retroactive look at the Fire Emblem series chapter by chapter. I'm your host, I am a Melee Kirby, and today we're taking it back to chapters 4, 5, 6, and 7 of Fire Emblem, the Blazing Blade. I am back from what seems to be my regularly scheduled hiatus, but I got the kickback. I've just been doing a whole lot of other shit, been working and playing a lot of games on my backlog, which I'll definitely talk about. I plan to do another game, like best games I played this year video or episode, and that one's going to be a little bit more ambitious than the one I did last year for reasons that will become obvious when I put it out. But just know that that is coming down the pipe, and I have played so many fucking games this year that. That's probably gonna be quite a long one. So that's kind of where I've been. Nothing really like super big keeping me from doing this. Just kind of, I've said this before, but I kind of go through cycles of like not feeling like, not having the motivation to sit down and like record and edit, and then getting the kickback periodically. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm gonna try to muscle through, or just put out at least a few episodes. Before the end of the year or maybe early 2024, because we're coming up on the end of 2023, which is crazy. It will make when's the actual date? Hold on, I have the list of episodes pulled up already. I was looking at something earlier. Episode 1 was published in the 12th. All right, I'll try to get something out on the 12th. I'm hoping to get this out. It's the 3rd today. I'm hoping to get this out relatively early or relatively soon, and then maybe have another episode out by the 12th, because that'll be the 3rd anniversary of this podcast, which is crazy. That's all. If I don't get anything out, then I hope you guys have a good holiday season, whatever you may celebrate. Just have fun, have a good time. But I'm getting a little bit off topic. Let's focus back on Fire Emblem and talk about the episodes. The last question of the episode that I asked you guys, which was essentially boiled down to, what's your opinion on Lyn Mode? What are your thoughts on the story, characters, all that stuff? Do you find it worth playing, etc.? At Knight of the Rake says, I play Lyn Mode when I rarely play FE7. If only to have a very strong paladin and Florina for the main game, because I have fun with Kent and Sacaen. Story is fun in an early level D&D party sort of way, and it doesn't have time to fall into a lot of the usual problems. That's a very good point. It's pretty simple, and it kind of avoids a lot of the traditional Fire Emblem problems that you see in a lot of stories that go on for longer. So that is a good point, for sure. At Ufel says, I really like doing Lyn Mode in drafts. Being able to feed EXP to a drafted unit and getting a head start makes some units in drafts better. That is true. I pretty much always play drafts for Lyn Mode. So, At Lore is Cool says, story-wise, I think it's pretty lovely the first time through. On replays, I obsessively feed EXP to faves, and it is entirely unnecessary, but it feels like a required part of the ritual of replaying FE7. I am with you. I'm right there with you. Whenever I play this game, I play Lyn Mode personally. I mean, I've already talked about how I kind of like the story, and revisiting that is always kind of fun. The episode, or the chapters we're going to talk about in this episode, do kind of have a lull sort of in the story, so maybe not as much right now, but early on the story is quite nice in my opinion. And whenever I play, I like using Florina. Florina is one of my favorite units to use. I usually use one of the 2 Cavaliers, and it just makes sense to use Lyn Mode as a way to get them caught up. Training Lyn herself can be pretty fun in those early stages. If there's any unit that I want to use, really, Sarah is a big one. Either Urk or Lucius, depending on what I'm going. And then, of course, if I actually want to play all the chapters in the game, you have to play Lyn Mode to level Nils, which we'll talk about. We will talk about it. Okay. So thanks for everyone who answered. What I want to know this time is... Okay, I got a good one. In light of the SSS episode that's going to be coming out soon, I don't know if it's going to go up before or after this episode. Probably like around the same time, on the same day. But either way, if you haven't listened to that, go check it out. Maybe before this episode even. Because I recorded it before this episode. But in that episode, I talk about Florina and Lyn and Kent and Lyn. And in this episode, I'm going to talk a little bit about Rath and Lyn. So I think this is just a good question, especially since God knows it's never going to fucking come up again because Lyn is going to be irrelevant soon. Who is your favorite paired ending for Lyn? Whether that's in a romantic sense or even just, you just like their support platonically. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're all explicitly romantic except for Florina, which I argue in the SSS episode, it's pretty much borderline explicitly romantic in my opinion. So yeah, who's your favorite paired or romance ending for Lyn in Fire Emblem The Binding Blade? Let me know at I'm a Melee Kirby or emailing turnworldpodcast@gmail.com. Yeah. All right. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started talking about the chapters for the episode, starting with chapter 4? Yeah, chapter 4. In Occupation's Shadow. Lyn has just escaped from some bandits, so you know what it's time for. More bandits, baby! Let's hear it for the bandits! Ayo! The bandits are very persistent, and they follow her to this fortress. She's just traveling. She encounters this, all the guys encounter this fortress, where they decide to spend the night. It's like an old, rundown place. And when Lyn goes inside, she meets a woman by the name of Natalie, who just happens to be there. She's looking for her husband, whose name is Dorcas. And if you know anything about Dorcas, you know that something bad's gonna happen to him, probably. This scene has some really nice music that they don't play very often. I'll probably put it in the episode right now as I'm talking. But I'm gonna try to find the name of that song. Hold on one second. Let me find it. Okay, so the name of the song is Silent Ground. And in looking for it, I actually discovered, I'm sure I've seen them before, but I never really paid that much attention. There's a YouTube channel called Gazpacho146 that did, I guess, remastered soundtracks for all of the GBA games. And when I say remastered, I don't mean they're like covers or remixes or anything like that. They're pretty spot on to what it sounds like in the game, except without the GBA audio fuzz that so many OSTs have, just because you can't get clean rips from the game. But yeah, no, check them out. I'm definitely gonna, this will probably be my go-to channel for listening to the FE GBA soundtracks if I ever get in the mood to listen to that. Which some of the soundtracks are really fucking good, especially FE8. That soundtrack goes really hard, but. Anyway, the song that they use in the scene is nice. Silent Ground is what it's called. Go check it out. I'll probably put it in the episode, like I said. So she meets Natalie. She tells him about Dorcas. Before they can really get into it too much, though, some bandits show up and want to attack Lyn. You're going to be hearing me say that a lot for the next couple of chapters. The bandits want to fight Lyn. This is our first, I think, right? This is our first defend map. It is probably one of the best ones in the game, which is not saying much. The bar is kind of in the ground on that one. Generally, the issue with defend maps in this game is that they're so easy and the enemies are so weak that you end up killing all the enemies before they can do anything to you. Really, there's really no reason to actually be defensive and play defensively. Which some people prefer that. I don't, honestly. I think defend maps are at their best when you are pushing out is a risk and you can do it. Like chapter 10 of Conquest or chapter 14 or of Thracia. Those are defend maps that you can push out, and in some ways that it's definitely beneficial to do so. But it's not easy. It's kind of a risk, and you need to balance that versus kind of playing on the defensive. There's actual pressure applied to you, whereas in the FE7 defend maps, there really just isn't. The enemies are so weak that you can just bust out of your defensive position and win essentially, and then you just have to spam end turn over and over again. until the map's over. But this does not suffer from that, mostly because the number of turns is pretty low. They continue to spawn enemies over and over again. Don't get me wrong. I want to make this clear. There's no pressure to actually stay defensive. You can bust out of the front with the Cavaliers pretty easily. There's really no danger of the wall on the left being broken in a timely manner. So you can just get rid of those guys with will pretty easily. There's some guys on the right that are basically cannon fodder for Florina. They barely do any damage to her, and they have weapon triangle disadvantage. So it's not a hard map by any means, but the enemies continue to come, so you never run out of enemies to fight, and you're never forced to resort to spamming end turn over and over again. So that's kind of like the level of shit map that we're dealing with when it comes to FE7 defense maps. So anything that deviates away from that is a win in my book. This map is A-okay. This is also the tutorial for red units, and sometimes red units can be recruitable. In this case, Dorcas is among the bandits that we're fighting, and because Lyn knows about him, she can go up and talk to him. And yeah, recruit him over to our side. Natalie is sort of the defend objective in this map. So if they get in and they attack her, which is so you have to literally let them go past you, but also move out of the way so they don't attack you, basically, because they will almost always prioritize going for you instead of going further in. So the odds of her ever getting attacked are infinitesimally low, unless you literally want it to happen on purpose, let alone her dying. But yes, you can recruit Dorcas, and he has a little conversation with Natalie, actually, if you have him move and talk to her. It's nothing special, but I figured it's worth mentioning. There's a lot of little details in these maps that I think people don't really think about, because you can just, you don't have to do them, and they're pretty easy to miss, and most people just want to get through the Lyn Mode maps as fast as possible. So Dorcas as a unit is pretty mediocre, actually. He's fine. There's so many better options in Lyn Mode, though, that he's very likely to hit the bench immediately, because you in the next couple of chapters we start to get battle preps and we can't deploy everybody, and it's who else are you benching instead of Dorcas? You know what I mean? There's not a whole lot of people. Will, obviously, but other than him, it's maybe the Cavalier you're not using, but that seems no, definitely don't do that, because you want Cavaliers even if you're not actually using them in combat. They can be good utility. There's really no one that's worth benching instead of Dorcas. Of course, if you want to use Dorcas, he's perfectly serviceable. In fact, he's decent. There's so many lance units in this game that having axes is pretty good. Hand axes are really valuable to deal with all the 1-2 range enemies. Overall, he's fine. He's just kind of slow. He doesn't, it takes him a while to kill enemies, but he's fine. He's perfectly serviceable. Better than Bartray. I know some people disagree with that, and there's valid reasons, I guess, for liking Bartray more, but Dorcas is definitely the better of the two, in my opinion. Both because he has Lyn Mode, and also because his base stats are a little bit better, I think. After the map, Dorcas decides to join up with you guys because he needs money. Natalie has an injury or something, and he wants money to get it looked at or something. So he's coming with you guys to get paid, which is fair enough. Gotta respect the grind set. That's the end of Chapter 4. Really simple, basic, nothing really happens. Chapter 5 is called Beyond the Borders, and I have written down here, Bandits 3, Return of the Bandits, because yes, we are fighting bandits again. I think this is the last one for a while, though, actually. In fact, I think this might be the last one in all of Lyn Mode, because after this, it's all Marquez, or all of Lundgren's forces, so, and then one where you fight the Black Fang, but we'll get there. Alright, so the start of this cutscene, or the start of chapter cutscene, we meet a couple of new characters who we haven't seen before. There's a girl and her escort, and they seem to be bickering, they seem to be having an argument. These two are named Sarah and Urk. Sarah is a Lycian priest who needs an escort to Ostia, and Urk literally tries to ditch her in the middle of this escort job. He's like, no one would ever attack you. Anyone would run away from you in 5 minutes if they had to be subjected to being around you. And I will give you your money back. Please just go to Ostia by yourself. And I don't know how serious he is being here about, like, the idea that no one would actually, like, try to kidnap her. Obviously, like, that's not true. But Urk is literally just about to fucking leave anyway. It's honestly very funny. But unfortunately for them, they get caught up in the scuffle between Lyn and some bandits. The bandits think that they're working with Lyn, and they fight a little bit. Sarah and Urk team up with you briefly just for the map and agree to fight off the bandits together. Pretty simple stuff. Let's talk about them as units though. So Sarah is a healer, and unfortunately for Sarah, she is definitely the worst of the, like, kind of go-to early game healers because she's on foot. You know, she's the Ellen of this game. She's not the Clarine. And if you're if you're not the Ellen, or if you're the Ellen and not the Clarine, if you don't have a horse, you need to make up for it in some other ways. You know, like, say, what's his face? Fucking Mulder from FE8 has easy access to warp, or easier access to warp than most others. And also there's no horseback healer in that game until, like, way late. So what does Sarah have that sets her apart from Priscilla, who is the horseback healer in this game? Well, she's in Lyn Mode, which is something for sure. But the enemies in Lyn Mode are so weak that it's not like you're going to be getting hit that often. You're certainly not going to be getting hit often enough to, like, reliably level her up in Lyn Mode. So is there anything else? Well, there's the fact that she's fucking awesome, and I love her, and I use her in every single playthrough. And guys, I don't think I can, like, dance around this, especially when we get to the SSS episode. So I'm just gonna go ahead and say it now. Sarah is my favorite character in this game. I love her a lot. She's very funny. I love her backstory. I love her personality. She's fucking adorable. I love pink hair anime girls are my kryptonite. Yeah, I mean, that's it. I love Sarah. And so you might say that Priscilla is better because she has a horse. And I would respond to that, fuck you. I'm going to use Sarah anyway. And there's nothing you can do to stop me. So, but yeah, realistically, I mean, you use her in Lyn Mode. Healers are never bad, right? Like, it's always good to have a healer around, especially when you don't have any other options for one. But once you get out of Lyn Mode, you get her back pretty early, but then you also get Priscilla just a couple of chapters later, so you're probably going to bench her. That's totally fine. I think that's what most people do, and I think that's very reasonable. Urk, on the other hand, is a little bit more interesting. So Urk is a mage. He's our anima mage for this game, and he's a really good unit, honestly. Like, he struggles a little bit. He does take a little while to get going. If you don't give him levels in Lyn Mode, or if you just skip over Lyn Mode and go straight to Hector or Eliwood mode, then he can actually be kind of a hassle to use. And there are possibly better options. Although, honestly, the other, like, magic-based character that you get early in I guess not even early, in the main mode is Lucius. And he's also not that great if you skip Lyn Mode or don't level him in Lyn Mode, because he is also in Lyn Mode. So, his competition isn't exactly tight. There are very, very valuable reasons to use Urk, and in fact, I'm pretty sure the speedrun does use him, because you can... no, actually, I think the speedrun or LTC uses Lucius instead, because he starts with higher staff rank when he promotes. I don't remember. But basically, he's pretty good. And there's like a whole argument about, well, you shouldn't really use Urk because you get Pent later, and Pent just completely outclasses him. And, I mean, it's that same argument that doesn't hold any water of, like, why do you only have to use one? Why can't you use both Urk and Pent? Or use neither of them, for that matter. Maybe you don't want to use Pent. Maybe you feel like he makes the game too easy, which is absolutely correct and understandable. So, yeah, there's no reason you have to use either Urk or Pent when using both is perfectly fine. Although, with that said, using Urk isn't a cakewalk, especially if you skip Lyn Mode. He can be a little troublesome, or if he gets bad levels in Lyn Mode. I've tried to use Urk many times, and I do always, like, he always ends up fine, but I always try to get him a head start in Lyn Mode when I want to use him, and he just always gets dog shit level ups and can never level magic or speed ever. And he ends up barely any stronger than he was if I had just skipped Lyn Mode. So he's fine. He's more than fine, honestly. He's quite good if you're willing to put in the time to get him to a higher level. I'm not going to be using him this time though, because I'm actually planning to use Lucius, who we'll talk about actually also in this episode. So yeah, he's going to be on the bench for me this time, but he's quite good. I've used him in many playthroughs in the past. So I'm starting to run low on. I guess running low is maybe a bit of an overstatement, but they always make me nervous when I play through Lyn Mode because they don't give you a whole lot of weapons to work with. Some enemies will drop weapons, and then you have the armory in chapter 3, but you don't have a lot of money to work with at that point. So it's not like you can go ham and buy a whole bunch of weapons. In this chapter, there's an armory, but it only sells javelins, hand axes, and bows, which I did pick up a javelin for Florina, but overall, you do have to be like a little careful with your item management. It's not anything like unreasonable. You're definitely not going to run out of like all your weapons. It's mostly just like if you're relying on one person to do a lot of the fighting, then you might realistically like break all your swords or like most of your swords, or most of your lances. Like Florina's slim lance. I forgot to buy her an iron lance when we did chapter 3, so I had to use her slim lance a lot, and it's already almost broken. So this chapter is really simple. I didn't even. Yeah, I mean, I hold on. Let me go back to the previous chapter for a second, because what I forgot to mention, I kind of glossed over this. I do actually like the way the game intends for you to defend the map. I think like there's a few entry points. It kind of brings breakable walls back into focus. And using different units with different strengths. It's a good teaching tool about the weapon triangle, especially because you have the mercenaries on the right, which you can fight with Florina. You have the bandits on the bottom, which you can fight with your sword using cavaliers. Or Lyn, I suppose, although Lyn has to go recruit Dorcas, so maybe not. Kind of depends on you. And then on the left, you have some guys who are going to try to break through a wall, which is perfect for Will. So I did mention all this, but I didn't really draw attention to why I think that's cool, which is because like I think it does a good job of highlighting the strengths and weaknesses of different weapons in gameplay instead of just telling you about the weapon triangle, which they've already done, but whatever. The reason I wanted to go back to that is because I wanted to talk about chapter 5 and talk about how it doesn't do any of that shit. It's just basically a straight line. There's some mountains and forests that Florina can fly over if you are feeling a little spicy, but for the most part, you just go in a straight line and kill all the bandits. It's not a big deal. It's kind of really mediocre map. So Urk and Sarah are going to leave after you beat the map, but then Sacaen lets slip because he cannot keep his mouth shut around cute women, that Lyn is the Marquess's granddaughter and that she's pretty important and all that. So Sarah decides that she's going to accompany them because she wants a important person in her debt for helping her. So, and then Urk tags along as well, even though he really doesn't want to, but I guess he's just kind of committed at this point. Poor Urk. Let's pour one out for Urk. Yeah, I would listen. All I'm saying is I would trade places with Urk in a heartbeat. All right, and then Urk can go to Urk. I feel bad for Urk. I do feel bad for Urk. Trust me. As much as I love Sarah, I understand that Urk is not having a good time, and I can respect that and understand why. Okay. It's at the end of this chapter where Lundgren is starting to realize that Lyn might actually be a bit of a threat. He did not expect her to make it through Burn alive, but now that she has, because now she's crossing the border into Lycia, he realizes that he may need to take more direct action. And so he's actively sending soldiers after her now, which he was not doing before. Well, he was, but like he stopped for a while and kind of just let the bandits handle it. There's a bit here where he's like, we need to kill Hausen faster. Hausen is the Marquess's brother. And he says, we need to kill Hausen faster. Double the poison strength, and if he resists, just start pouring it down his throat. And it's like, why don't you just fucking stab him at that point? Like, why What's the point of having it be poisoned if you're just gonna fucking murder him? I guess for like plausible deniability, I don't know. Like, I guess he wants to make it look like an illness, but like, who's gonna fact check him on that, right? Like, is the doctor gonna be like, oh, there's a stab wound here, like, this isn't an illness at all. Like, just pay him off or kill him or something. I don't know. Who cares? Doesn't matter. I mean, the real answer is plot convenience, and that's fine. It is what it is. It's not a big deal. All right. Next up, we have Chapter 6, which is called Blood of Pride. They've finally made it into Lycia, and specifically, they are now in Erefen, which is said to be the second largest city in Lycia behind Ostia. I'm pretty sure that this is a new invention for FE7. I don't think Erefen was mentioned in FE6. I could be wrong about that. I'm not sure. Some of Lundgren's soldiers show up and go to attack Lyn. They also set the castle on fire for some reason. This is like a whole thing. I'm really trying not to tread over too much ground that Mecha did in those FE7 videos that I talked about in the first episode. But this just really bears repeating. Like, why did they do this? What was the point of setting the castle on fire when they could have just killed Lyn? At first, I was like, oh, maybe they want to like make it look like this. We'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say they're gonna light the castle on fire, and they're gonna be like, ooh, who could have done this? Who, and like deny that it was Lundgren's guys, but they want to light the castle on fire so that the guards have to worry about something other than, you know, the bandits who are trying to kill a girl in the middle of their town. That seemed reasonable at first, but then it seems like they're also attacking the Marquess and being just like really obvious about the whole thing. I don't know. It's a bit contrived. There's no reason why the castle needed to be on fire. It doesn't introduce any kind of plot. Like, there's no turn limit on this chapter, or else the castle burns down. I don't know. It's just strange. It's just pointlessly making an enemy. Although it could, honestly, based on what happens later, I do think it could also have been an intimidation tactic, which seems to work. So maybe I'm talking out my ass. Maybe this was a good plan. I don't know. Someone goes to attack Lyn, and someone comes out of nowhere. It's a guy on a horse who shoots him with an arrow. And the guy on the horse is Sacaen as well. His name is Rath, of the Kutala tribe. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but he and Lyn have like a nice moment here. I mean, she recognizes that he's Sacaen, and they seem to have like a nice little bonding moment here, where they talk a little bit about being Sacaen and how they're gonna like stand like stick with each other during the battle, just to make sure that like he's like I can't just let like a plainswoman be attacked on my watch. So there's some camaraderie there, some solidarity, which is good. Like I don't know. I pick, maybe I'm reading too much into it. I pick up on a little bit of romantic subtext here between the two of them, because he is one of her paired ending partners. So maybe that's just like my confirmation bias, but they do seem to kind of form a little bit of a bond here, which I think is nice and cute. Kent also, this is the part that makes me think that maybe it was a little intentional, because we do know for a fact that Kent has feelings for Lyn, and when she and Rath are like talking to each other, there's like a bit where he's kind of just like has some ellipses and then kind of backs off, and it's like, oh, is he getting a little jealous? Like, what's going on there? Ooh, it's nothing crazy, right? Like, obviously, I love shipping. I like not like I'm not as into it as some people are, obviously, but just like I like that sort of I like relationships in media, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So Rath joins your team. I actually forgot to write down to talk about him, so let me do that right now. Okay, we'll talk about him in a second. But in the cutscene, we see like a little thief. He's like scampering around, and then he like runs into a house and is like, I want to get a view of the battle. There's a funny interaction here where he's like, I'll pay you to let me watch the battle from your house. And the woman's like, oh, you're just going after the spoils left over like a scavenger, you monster. Anyway, pay up. And it's just funny. I like this interaction. I love Matthew. We're gonna talk about him, but Matthew is so good. So apparently the goal here is to open some doors, step on some buttons, and then the buttons will open a secret passageway to the throne room. I don't know. It's kind of just a contrived excuse to have a new victory objective, which is basically like multi-seas. We actually see this come back later, only once in like an or a Hector mode exclusive chapter. But it's a very similar idea here. There are 3 points where you need to have any unit stand on them, and then wait, and then they'll fucking activate the secret passage or something. I don't know. So that's where the map begins. Rath. Let's talk about Rath first because he's playable right away. He is a nomad, similar to Shin and Su from FE6. He's on horseback. He is an archer. He's pretty strong, pretty fast. He is arguably this is a fun thing for him. Rath arguably gets better if you skip Lyn Mode, because when he rejoins in Eliwood and Hector mode, if you skipped Lyn Mode, he has B in bows. That's his bow rank is B. But if you play Lyn Mode, then he starts at C rank because he joins a lot earlier, and he just carries over his bow rank from Lyn Mode. So if you want to use Rath, I guess you maybe skip Lyn Mode, I guess, or because he's fairly high level, so he's not going to get a lot of experience. You're probably not going to be able to raise his bow rank a whole rank by the end of Lyn Mode. So like maybe just don't, I guess. I actually am planning on using Rath this playthrough. So I'll try to use him a fair bit, and I'm sure if he joins with C-bows in Hector mode, then it's not the end of the world. It's just figured I'd figured it would be worth pointing it out. Jesus Christ, I can't talk. But yeah, Rath's pretty cool. He's not the main problem with Rath is that he rejoins really late in Hector mode. I mean, not really late. It's like halfway through. I think by a pretty wide margin, the last character to rejoin you from Lyn Mode, because he doesn't rejoin you until like after Dragon's Gate and all that stuff. So, I mean, I guess if you want to count Nils, but that's cheating. So you can have Lyn go visit the house, and that Matthew's in, and then you recruit Matthew, and Matthew is a thief, and he does all the things that thieves do. He's not very strong, very frail, but he's fast, he's quick, he hits hard, or hits accurately, his high dex, and he can open doors and chests. Unlike in the previous game, thieves can actually promote in this. I say that, but it's not really worth it. I mean, both Matthew and the other thief that you can promote are really fucking cool, but they're not really. Both of them are so weak that it's not really worth using them long term, in my opinion. I mean, you can definitely do things to like make them stronger. Matthew has a support with a guy named Guy later. I didn't do that on purpose, I swear. That like boosts his strength and all that. So maybe you could do something with that. But honestly, they're mostly just utility guys. Besides, the promotion item is so late in the game, you can't do it with like a normal like a hero crest or an ocean seal or anything like that. You have to use a fucking fell contract, which you can only get by beating a very late game boss. This is like the 4th or 5th last chapter in the game. And even then, you could just sell it for a shitload of money. And even if you don't want to sell it, you do want to use it. Matthew has competition in the form of another thief who's arguably better. It's Matthew kind of gets a bad lot in this game. Unfortunately, it's not until FE8 where thieves are like really worth serious consideration as like combat units. Kind of. Even then, that's very debatable. But like. It's not a hassle to use one as a combat unit, basically, or like as a mainstay on your team for things other than just utility, I guess. So unfortunately, Matthew kind of gets hoed, but he's all right. He's certainly not bad, and I've definitely used him and definitely made him into an assassin before now. So I think narratively, it actually makes more sense for you to give it to the other guy. But I guess you could Matthew. I guess you can make an argument for, but doesn't matter. What you need to know right now is that Matthew can open some chests, and he gets some good items out of these chests. There are 2 chests on this map. And more importantly, he needs to open the doors, because that's, that's required to beat the game. Although there are door keys also, so doesn't really matter. But you get 2 chests in this. You get an armor slayer, which is useful for the boss. Although Lyn has the manikati, which is 3 times effective in this. If you remember, I patched the game to have 3 times effectiveness. But then also you get an angelic robe, which is in very high demand in this. There are a lot of characters that would really benefit from that angelic robe, and you can't save it for Eliwood or Hector mode, so you need to use it in Lyn mode. And there are a lot of units that would really benefit from it. Basically, any combat unit that you want to use could benefit from it in some way. Like, using it on one of the Cavaliers, because they're going to be seeing the most combat, is viable. You could give it to Lyn, since if she dies, it's a game over. So having her, have a little bit of extra health could be helpful for you if you're worried about keeping her alive. A lot of people choose to give it to Florina. In fact, almost every single playthrough, I give it to Florina because I like using Florina, and it makes her, able to survive another couple hits. I do have to be worried about bows in this more than I would normally, so having more bulk on her would be nice. I was about to say is nice, except I actually didn't use it on Florina in this playthrough, just to mix things up a little bit. I am probably still going to use Florina, and in fact, the other stat booster you get later, which is the energy ring, I am probably still going to give to her. But this time around, I gave it to Lucius. So that's I like Lucius. He's very frail. And him surviving, a couple hits is kind of nice. Especially since he's mad. Like, it's harder for him to get away. My rationale was basically, if Florina is in danger, it's very easy in most circumstances to just have her run away, because she can outpace most enemies who would be trying to fight her. She can cross mountains, etc. She's usually pretty safe, even if she's, low on HP. Lucius is not that at all. he's very squishy and very immobile, so he isn't able to get around as fast. So that's kind of the rationale for why I gave it to him. I'm getting ahead of myself and talking about Lucius more than I probably should be. So let's move on. You just have to open some doors, fight some enemies. There are some houses. Actually, sorry, not the houses. We'll do that later. Before that, though, you can actually have Sarah talk to Matthew, and they seem to know each other. They seem to have a history together, which is strange, because Matthew is just like some thief. So I don't know why he would have a history with Sarah, but Sarah is like, oh, I can feel it. Someone's watching me. And she wanders off, and he's like, oh man, that was close. She almost spotted me. And then she's like, what is she doing here? I can't let her find the passageway. And I always thought that line was very funny, because, why? In a worst case scenario, she's just annoying. Why would her finding the passageway be a problem? What is he worried about? What does he know about Sarah that we don't know? That's my question. In all likelihood, it's probably either just a weird translation or just a wonky line in the script. It doesn't really matter. I just thought it was funny. But yes, so there are houses in this map other than the one that you recruit Matthew. I'm trying to be good about this because it's so hard to actually check these out because they're so insignificant in every game, especially in the early game. It's almost always just tutorials that I already know or meaningless lore that doesn't really add anything. And my every fiber of my being, my muscle memory is telling me don't bother. Don't check the houses unless you know there's something in there. And it's hard, right? Because on the one hand, it doesn't really matter that much because most of the time it's going to be pointless. And then I look up a lot of dialogue and stuff anyway, since I'm not going to be able to see all the dialogue. But the problem is that the house dialogue is honestly not really cataloged anywhere. There's at least the Serenus Forest script doesn't usually have it unless it's significant. The wiki script, as far as I can tell, doesn't tend to have it. So, and then the fandom wiki script doesn't tend to have it. And then the other wiki, I think it's FireEmblemWiki.org, has the scripts in that are very hit or miss on whether they're even there in the first place. So I kind of want to check out these houses, and sometimes they do offer good insight. at the end of this chapter, we find out that the Marquess is like super racist, and we'll talk about that. But these houses give you a sneak preview on like what you might be about to see, and actually also give some insight into why he acts this way. So apparently Marquess Arafen, I don't know his name, he was in love with Lyn's mom, and when she married the guy, what was his name? Hassar? Is that it? No, something like that. Her dad, when she married her dad, he got mad and turned racist. He's about to get racist. He hates people from Sacaen now. But they never say that in the main story dialogue. It's implied, but it's never outright stated. So that sometimes the houses can be insightful, and I want to try to remember to see them more, but I might miss something. So not like anyone else would ever fucking know, because no one reads the houses. But it doesn't matter. Okay. Once the chapter's finished, Lyn goes to meet with Marquess Arafen, and he had originally said like, yes, I'll help you, but he didn't actually see Lyn at that point. Only Kent. I think Kent went ahead to talk with him. Then all this stuff happened where the castle got lit on fire, and then now she's finally meeting him for the first time, and he says, I changed my mind. I do not want to help you because you look too Sacaen. You have too much Sacaen savagery in you. He's like, he goes off. He is like fucking alt-right Twitter rant. Like, he's super racist. Lyn, takes it on the chin. She says, that's fine. I wouldn't want your help anyway. I don't want help from anyone who disparages my heritage. I'm just not about that. So she decides to go on without his help. Kent and Sacaen, stand by her. Kent has a good character moment here too, where he apologizes because he was during that exchange, he was like pushing for to get his help, and then later he realizes like I should have taken your feelings into consideration more than I did. So that's nice. I like that. Basically, after this, Marquess Arafen is kind of just like grumbling to himself. He basically says that if she had like cried a little bit, or like showed some level of vulnerability, then he would have helped her. He does say, like, he comes up with the excuse of like, Lundgren is going to be the next Marquess of Caelin, and I don't want to get on his bad side, which is probably at least partially true. But it seems like if she had actually just like shown a little bit of vulnerability, then he would have helped her, which is fucked up, obviously. I may be racist, but if a woman's crying, like, I'll help her. It's like, Jesus Christ. Rath overhears this though, and basically they get into an argument. It seems like his whole deal is like, as long as you are beneath him in some way, he's fine. As long as he can feel superior to you, then he likes you, and he's willing to help you out. And Rath kind of, is starting to understand that's kind of like where he's coming from, and decides to just quit on the spot. Good for him, honestly, based. And he decides to join up with Lyn. Bring some gold. You get a little bit of money. It's nice. Okay. Last but not least, we're talking about Chapter 7, which is called Siblings Abroad. The chapter starts with a young boy running into an inn and asking for some help. I guess he's being chased by some guys, and the innkeeper is not willing to help him. The innkeeper is kind of a piece of shit. We'll talk about the implications of this, though, shortly, actually. However, he does eventually find Lyn and her group, and they are actually willing to help him. This group is unrelated to any that we've interacted with before. These are not bandits. These are not Lundgren soldiers. They're not even after Lyn. They're after this child specifically. And one of the guys comes up and says, "Back to Nurgle with you," or something to that effect. So this is a guy named Nurgle who we're getting name dropped here for the first time. Wonder what that's about. Wonder who he is. Well, I guess we'll see. This is the chapter where we get battle preps. That's pretty cool. I love me some battle preps. I'm pretty sure we lose them again, like at the beginning of Elowood and Hector mode, which is unfortunate. But I think we get them back like relatively quickly, so it's fine. Get to organize some items. Always love that. So after the battle preps start, we're joined by a young man. He is a man. He was at the inn when Nils, that's the boy's name, by the way, Nils comes in, he came in and asked for help, and the innkeeper was a dick. Lucius saw all that, and he felt bad, so he wants to help out Nils as well. So he fights alongside you. He is a light magic user. This is we didn't see this in FE6. They actually got rid of the they had bishops, but the only ones who promoted into bishops were healers. So there were no tier 1 light magic users, basically. There was no light magic equivalent to shamans or mages or anything like that. This game, I don't want to say introduces them, because they were in FE4 and 5. So this is not a new thing. Although, yeah, it's not a new thing. FE5 specifically, I think, introduces bishops, like light magic users promoting into bishops with is Linoan a sage? I actually don't remember. Usually they promote to sages. I remember that because like Sarah and Homer both promote to sage. Yeah, I mean it doesn't really matter. Either way, we have a light magic user on our team, and he's all right. He's pretty good. He is definitely one of the better options for like if you're trying to do an LTC. Training him up can be good because he gets C rank stabs when he promotes. He can use C rank stabs right away, whereas both Urk and the dark magic user we get later named Canas or Canis. Well, I don't know how to pronounce his name. I think it's Canas. He promotes to when they promote, they get E rank for stabs. So definitely a lot less versatility there. Lucius is also the latest in the series of characters who are men that look like women. This is a recurring character archetype that they use to varying degrees of success. I quite like Lucius. Honestly, I don't think they play up his gimmick too much, unlike, fucking like Libra or whatever. But even Libra, they play up his gimmick a lot, but he also has some like really good supports in there too. So, all right, so. All right. Yeah, so we got to talk about Nils now. Nils is the dancer of this game. There's actually two that we alternate between. They're not both available at the same time. Obviously, that'd be broken. Anyone who's done a randomizer where they get more than one dancer / bard knows what I'm talking about. That shit is broken. But we only ever have one at a time. For now, it's Nils, and he's a bard, so kind of like Elfin, except instead of a harp, he has a little pan flute. He does a little silly little dance. He's just an energetic little boy, and he's fun. I like Nils. He doesn't actually have any supports of his own, like support conversations, so that's unfortunate. But like from what we see in his main story dialogue, of which there's quite a bit because he is a pretty important character later on. He's fun. I like him. Now, let me tell you about the reason everyone fucking hates Nils. So, there is a chapter in Hector mode. Okay? It is called 19XX. It is a Gaiden chapter within a Gaiden chapter. And you have to fill a whole bunch of requirements. I mean, you have to be playing on Hector mode for one, which, is a whole playthrough of the game. But then also you need to, I think you need to beat Kushina, which is or Kishuna. Kushina is Naruto's mom. I think it's Kishuna. You have to beat him, which is like really hard if you're not using save states, or like if you're not prepared in advance for it, it's like really hard. It is doable for sure if you like come ready to fight some guys, but that's a whole mess. But then, putting aside all of that, for some godforsaken reason, you also need to get Nils to level 7 in Lyn Mode. He starts at level 1, and he gets 10 experience per dance. So you need to dance him. You need to dance with him. What would that be? 70 times or 60 times? If unless you're playing like really slowly, there's not even 60 more turns in Lyn Mode probably. Like you really and that's like, if you're playing fast, like you're definitely gonna beat it within 60 turns. If you're playing at like an average speed and you also have him dance every single turn, then you maybe can get him to level 7. But most of the time what's going to happen is if you're going to forget sometimes. He's not going to have an opportunity to dance every turn. And you're going to end up on fucking chapter 10, which is the last one of Lyn Mode, just spamming dance over and over again just to get him to level 7. It's super obnoxious, and I don't like it. But what can you do? That is what I'm going to have to deal with because we are playing every single map. So 19. Honestly, most of the time I just skip 19XX, but I we do have to do it this time. So we'll be doing that. Speaking of Gaidens, though, we actually have our first ever Gaiden in this chapter. In order to unlock the Gaiden, we need to beat this map in 15 turns or less, which is super easy. There is a concept to this map that I like, which is basically you can go around. But there's like a mountain range blocking your path to the boss, so you have to go around the mountain range. But if you have someone who can walk on mountains, I don't think we actually have anybody who can walk on peaks. But if you have Florina drop someone over the mountains, there's a snag, and there's actually a house that mentions this. There's a snag, which we saw in FE6, that you can knock down. Wait, were snags in FE6? Probably. You can knock it down and use it as a bridge to get across, and it's like a whole little thing you can do. Ultimately, it's really unnecessary because the long way around is not that bad. Probably arguably faster since you don't have to like mess around with rescue dropping or anything like that. And the enemies are also weak that you really, going around the back way does not really have any major benefit. I do think that's the intention though, because I'm pretty sure this is our first kill boss map. So if you just bum rush the boss, theoretically, you could finish very quickly, and you don't have to kill any of the enemies. So that I think that's kind of what they intended you to do, or like an intended alternative solution. But it's not really worth doing, which is unfortunate, because that could be cool if they made the enemies a little bit tougher. Maybe they had like a really strong guy, like a mini boss or something. Or what if they fucking sent like Ursula or someone at you, in the middle of this? I mean, obviously, that probably would not work out well. But even if it was like someone who you could theoretically beat, it was just hard. Then it would maybe incentivize going the short way or flying, having Florina fly you. But then if you wanted to go the long way to challenge yourself, you could also do that. That could be cool. Honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, I think that would be a good idea for like if someone wanted to do like a Redux hack of this game. That could be an interesting idea. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about the guys that we're fighting, because they're not bandits, they're not Lundgren's soldiers. They are part of a group called the Black Fang, which is the first time we're hearing of them. They don't mention specifically that they are a part of the Black Fang. They have Black Fang as like their name tags. And then also, if you visit the inn that Nils tried to get help from, the bartender or the innkeeper or whatever, he explains that the Black Fang are like a group of assassins, and that like if you're being hunted by them, you're basically screwed. There's no escaping from the Fang, is what he says. So that's presumably why he didn't want to get involved. He wasn't just being a dick for no reason. He was being a dick for a very specific reason, which is, I guess, a little bit better. I mean, if you really thought that he was going to die, which, honestly, like, I'll play devil's advocate for this guy for a second. If he knew the Black Fang was after this kid, I don't know how he knows it's the Black Fang, but if he knew it was the Black Fang, and he tried to harbor this kid, he would have died. He absolutely would have just gotten fucking killed. So, I can't. It's hard for me to be too mad at him, I guess. But anyway, Lyn does fight the Black Fang and win. If you do it fast enough, you can get the Gaiden chapter. But we'll get to that in a second. Oh, okay. There's a couple things I forgot to mention. First of all, there's a house here that gives you pure water and a little tutorial on how it works. That's pretty nice. There's also a house over at the bottom right where if you visit it, talking about this from the perspective of a blind player, there's a guy in there who looks interesting. Like, he definitely like is a specific person instead of just a generic villager. We have no idea who he is. If you have played the game before, though, you would recognize this as Hector. Hector is here in a house, and you can visit the house with people, and he just kind of mentions like, oh, Ellawood is running late. But if you visit with Matthew, he has a full conversation with Hector where it's revealed that Matthew works for Ostia, the Marquess of Ostia, because that's who Hector is. He's the Marquess's younger brother. So he works for Ostia. He's not just a normal thief. And that probably explains why he knows Sarah, because if you have Sarah visit, you find out that she also works for Ostia, although instead of having a conversation with Hector, he literally hides from her, just like Matthew, which is very funny. No one likes Sarah. They're all menaced by her, which is very funny. This is just a nice little preview of what we're going to see. Especially the Matthew piece is really cool because we don't find that out until the main mode. And it's just another one of those like little details that they didn't have to put in, like Hector being in this house doesn't really add anything to the game, but it's just nice, a nice little detail that you can get some cool experiences with if you want to. It's neat. I like it. Okay. So you beat the boss, and they enter the castle that the boss was guarding, and they can't find Nils. Oh, I never explained what this was about. So Nils is not just running away from these guys. His sister was also captured by them. So it's not just that he needs help getting away. He also needs help beating them so that he can get his sister back. And once you beat them, you go into the castle, and you can't find Ninian anywhere. They think, actually, that they might have run away with her, but just when they're about to go, chase after them, there's another guy who shows up. Ellawood, our boy, our main protagonist of this game, in the main mode, comes out carrying Ninian in his arms. I guess he felt like there was something fishy going on, so he stepped in to save her. And yeah, and she explained, anyone who's from the perspective of a blind player, but maybe a blind player who has played FE6 would know that this is, he looks a lot like Roy. He mentions that he's from Faerie. He's the Marquess's son. In fact, actually, Ellawood was in FE6, so they would just recognize him as being Roy's dad, which is cool. And then they have a little bit of exchange. Lyn tells him her story, and Ellawood, basically says, I'm on your side. I can help you out if you want. Lyn turns him down, though, and says, no, this is my problem. I gotta solve it on my own. Even though she was gonna ask Arafen for help, but whatever. Don't worry about it. And yeah, that's Ellawood leaves, and we'll see him again in the near future, but also, of course, when he's the protagonist. But for now, Lyn is left with Nils and Ninian. They want to come with them. And they reveal an aspect of themselves that's pretty interesting. They have a kind of innate danger sense. They can feel if something bad's about to happen, basically. They know if they're going to be in danger. But the way they explain it is that they can sense the danger, but they can't do anything about it, so it doesn't matter. But traveling with Lyn, she might be able to do something about it, which is a nice combo. Ninian when Ninian wakes up, she was unconscious when Ellawood rescued her. So she comes to, and they have an exchange here. Ninian's theme song. I'm talking a lot about the music this episode, but the music in this game is really good. Ninian's theme song. It's called Reminiscence, I think. It's really, really fucking good, and I'm probably also gonna put it here in the episode so you can listen to it and go check out that remastered version. It's really good. But yeah, Ninian is nice. I like Ninian. She's cute, and I like her relationship with Ellawood because, as we'll see later, she's kind of like the semi-canon love interest for Ellawood, but, I'm getting ahead of myself. So she joins up with the crew. And then if you beat this chapter in under 15 turns, or 50 turns or less, you are given the option of doing a Gaiden chapter. Yes, for the first time, you are actually given the choice on whether or not you want to go to the Gaiden chapter. If you meet the requirements in the previous 2 games that had Gaiden chapters, you always go to the Gaiden, which is, usually fine, right? Most of the Gaidens are worth going to. But in Thracia, especially, there were a couple of really bad ones that it's kind of obnoxious that you have to go out of your way to not meet the requirements if you don't want to go to them. Like 24x, right? Like most people are just gonna like not get that. Most people are just gonna kind of get that chest mindlessly without thinking about it. On repeat playthroughs, you just have to like not get the chest. What's another good example? Honestly, Thrasia's not that bad about it now that I think about it. There aren't a whole lot of guidance that are like hard to not get that you wouldn't want to go to, but it's still nice to have the option, basically. Of course, we say yes because we're doing every chapter. Basically, the side quest is just that while Ninian was captured, the Black Fang stole something very precious to her as a ring called Ninnis Grace, or it's like a bracelet, I guess. I'm pretty sure she wears it on her wrist. And she's like, oh well, it's sad that it got stolen, but there's nothing we can really do about it. But like Lyn says, I want to go get this back. Mark, are you okay with this? And you can say yes or no. And then if you say yes, you'll go and get the bracelet back, which is nice, I suppose. Okay. They're called side quests in this game, by the way. It says embark on side quest, yes or no. All right. That's all for this episode. Talked about the 4 chapters. None of them are particularly special. I do like some ideas here. I like the concept of chapter 4. I like the concept of this chapter, even if, like, in practice, they're not really that interesting or good. I think if you're a new player, just, like, learning Fire Emblem for the first time, this is like, you could start with Lyn hard mode, and be fine. I don't know why they thought the tutorials were necessary when the game design does a really good job of teaching you the basics of how different weapons work, and how, like, you can maybe like use alternative strategies to beat maps in ways that aren't immediately obvious. Like it does a good job of that, and it doesn't. I mean, you don't get a tutorial for going around the mountains anyway, obviously, but and they also don't give you a tutorial for the fucking Gaiden chapters, which is the one thing I actually would have maybe liked a tutorial for, because there's no way to know you need to beat the chapter in 15 turns or less. So I didn't get the Gaiden my first time playing the game. Okay. That's all. Yeah. So next time we're going to be doing we're going to be finishing Lyn Mode. We're going to be doing 7X, 8, 9, and 10. So we'll finish Lyn Mode up in the next episode. But for now, that's all the Fire Emblem content I really have to talk to you guys about. So let's go ahead and talk about some news. Let's get right into the news. God, I'm so sorry. Why did I... That was an intrusive thought that just kind of like blurted out. What the fuck? I'm sorry I had to subject you to that. Okay. So Oh, this is some cool stuff. Yeah, okay, hold on. I'll go back a little bit. All right, yeah, this is where okay, so there's some what is this? Acrylic stands for heroes. That's kind of cool. I don't talk about heroes news very often, but it is the heroes has its 1000th hero, or got its 1000th hero back in September, which was Patty actually. From Genealogy of the Holy War, which is a very nice... You would think they would do like something big to celebrate, like, the 1000th hero banner, and it would all be like fucking alts of characters that everybody already loves, but no, the fact that it's Patty is based, honestly, and I like that a lot. Alright, now, unfortunately, because of my dumbass hiatus that I went on for no fucking reason, I completely missed FEE3, and honestly, I don't know if I have time to do a whole episode dedicated to that this year. I really want to, but I want to crank out some more episodes of this before the end of the year, and then I also want to get the games I played in 2023 out. Maybe I'll do something at like the beginning of 2024. I'm not going to make any promises. But just go check it out. I haven't watched it myself yet. I'm actually planning on it soon. But I'm probably not. Don't expect an episode. If you get one, it'll be a pleasant surprise. But I would very much. I'm definitely going to go at least check it out, because I want to see updates on the games maybe that I talked about last year, even, because there were some really good ones in there. The Engage soundtrack is getting released. Exorbitantly expensive and probably already sold out, because this was a month and a half ago that this was announced. This was announced. So, and then it looks like there's some kind of interview about Fire Emblem Engage. I can check that out briefly. I'm not going to read through the whole thing right now, but this is on Serenus Forest. You can just go check it. Oh, okay. Well, it's all in Japanese. I don't know why I expected anything different. Okay. Well, yeah. So the fucking Google auto translate will do it for me. That's kind of what I was expecting to happen. But then it took a second, so it was just all it was just all Japanese. Some stuff in here about using Unity. Something the grid size was changed. That's kind of neat. Stuff about character designs, basically, which I don't really like the character designs in Engage, but I know a lot of people do, which is fine. So go read some of this if you're interested. All right, that's all the news. And let's talk a little bit about what I've been doing, because I've been obsessively cleaning out my backlog. I played a lot of games this year. And I'm very excited to talk about some of them towards the end of the year. Just as a sneak preview, I'll talk about some of the ones that I played in the past 3 months specifically, because obviously there's been a whole lot between then and now. I'm pretty sure, actually, let me go to my played. I have a backlogged, I mentioned this already, backlogged.com/u/IMayMeleeKirby. If you want to see some of the games that I have on my backlog, some of the games I've played. I'm pretty sure that the last episode I had just finished Trails or something like that. Maybe I didn't beat Trails into Reverie yet, but I've beaten Trails into Reverie. I played a shitload of games between now and then. Just the highlights. I finally got around to finishing Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. It was like the day after I committed to doing that they announced the fucking remake. But I was already so close to the end that I just said, fuck it. I'll play the original, and then maybe I'll get the remake when it comes out, possibly. I played the Spider-Man game for PS4, which was great. I played Yakuza 0, which is so fucking good. One of my favorite games ever, probably. Like, it was my first experience with Yakuza, and I love it. The tone is so good. It's funny and serious at the same time. It reminds me a lot of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. So if you like that kind of tone, definitely check out Yakuza. It's a very, very silly, fun game. 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim. I played that. That was a lot of fun. Not like the best visual novel I've ever played, but certainly, and the RTS battles were all right, but definitely a lot of fun. I enjoyed that game quite a bit. And then the only other one that's really worth mentioning that I want to talk about is I did finish Ace Attorney, the Great Ace Attorney, or Dai Gyakuten Saiban is what it's called in Japan. Those are some Ace Attorney, I guess, spin-off games. They're basically main series, though. I mean, they have all the same gameplay and all that. And takes place in like 17th century Japan, something like that. In the 1800s. Sherlock Holmes is there, Herlock Sholmes is there. And one of Phoenix Wright's ancestors, called Ryunosuke Naruhodo, is also there. And he goes to Britain, and it's like a whole thing. Pretty good. I definitely not one of my favorites in the series. There were some cases that I wasn't a big fan of, but overall the characters were quite good. Herlock Sholmes is like maybe the best character in the entire series. He's so funny. I love him. But yeah, you can only get them in America by buying the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles bundle, which is on Switch. I think it's also on PC. I played it on Switch, though, so I'm not sure. And then I only played the first game. I am going to get around to the second at some point soon. Probably not this year. In fact, definitely not this year. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Okay. That's pretty much everything. I am very excited to be back on this. I'm going to try to at least get the last Lyn Mode episode out within the next couple of weeks before the end of the year. And, some kind of video about, or some kind of episode about the games I played this year and my favorites and all that stuff. So look forward to that. And, I'm going to post this on Twitter, probably the day that I record this, but they do a Spotify Wrapped for podcasters. And I just gotta say, obviously the podcast isn't that big yet, but I did just cross, or maybe not just, but I relatively recently crossed 2,000 total plays and 50 followers. So thank you guys so much for that. And obviously the numbers overall are quite small, but like if you look at the wrapped, or when I looked at the wrapped, I'm gonna post them on Twitter. Huge amounts of growth. It was like 180% growth or something like that compared to last year. So yeah, no, I'm really happy with how things are going, and I hope to continue to make. I was gonna say good content, but let's be honest. I hope to continue to make content for you guys. Yeah, going forward. So let me know who you ship Lyn with, basically, on Twitter. And other than that, I'll catch you all next time. Bye bye.